So we are ready ya, Mbak Citta sama Mas Alwi.
Insyaallah.
Insyaallah. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Salam.
Mbak Citta, welcome to our first podcast.
Thank you very much.
It's called Global Horizons Podcast because this is our new initiative in our IOP team at io.uinssc Cirebon, where we are trying to look at the multifaceted areas of internationalization. I think you are the first person that comes to my mind when it comes to internationalization of higher education. So welcome to our podcast, Mbak Citta, and I believe your insight will help us learn more. And I told my team that an episode or probably 50 episodes or 30 episodes, we will gather all the insights from the speakers and we will try to do more research and we will make those insights into publishable books, probably in UK or elsewhere. So that's actually the reason why we are here. And then when I was in Pontianak, I was shocked by the fact mentioned by Pak Direktur Diktis, Prof. Inung. He said that there are only 7 PTKIN in Indonesia who have now the akreditasi unggul status. So the rest of us EIN who are now transitioning into university will have to work very hard because in 2024 we have to let's say head-to-head with pendidikan tinggi umum, and beyond 2024 we have to face-to-face with international universities, probably in the Southeast Asian level. So the reason why we invite you as the first speaker here is we want to hear from you how internationalization of higher education actually looks like, because you have a very long expertise and experience in doing this stuff. But before going to the first question, I think I have to slightly go through the CV of Mbak Citta Sellepan, my good friend of mine. So now Mbak Citta is an education consultant supporting international doctoral applicants in preparing their doctoral study applications and finding scholarship scheme supports. So for those of you who are now searching for scholarship, you need some help, then you can contact Mbak Citta for this matter. And then in the period of 2018 up to 20, Mbak Citta was a business development executive for Studio Global, Charles Darwin University. And then she was also in country of Indonesia, Singapore, Malaysia, University of Canberra. And I actually met a speaker from the University of Canberra, Ibu Dr. Siti Fatahudin.
Yeah.
He is from Makassar, I think you know her. She is the expert of math education. I met her here in Cirebon. And then the CV is very long, but overall, I can tell you all that Mbak Citta has a broad experience in Australia and also in Asia. So, Mbak Citta, thank you again for coming to our podcast. Now, maybe to start the conversation, Mbak Citta, how did you actually get into the business of higher education in Australia and Indonesia? Because it looks very interesting now.
Okay, so Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam.
The big families of EIN Cirebon. And
Thank you.
Probably the one who's following this interesting, first very interesting podcast. It is indeed a great honor actually for me to be able to
We are honored.
join and to sort of having the opportunity to have a discussions and sharing sessions, probably.
Sharing session, yeah.
More of the sharing sessions of the experience with all my friends here. And it is, of course, indeed to be attached always with my old friends, Pak Lala. Always very supportive. So I've been also receiving lots of support from Pak Lala in my previous professional expertise. So I admire and respect that very highly.
Thank you.
Regarding that sort of first questions, so I, as an old-fashioned girl, I also believe that our path is actually kind of sort of designed there by the Almighty up above.
Right.
So I start from the very beginning of my career journey.
Sure.
I always work in the education related industry. So for Australia, it's called education industry. So that was started as an academic staff here, and then like quite numbers of others academic friends going abroad for continuing further studies and then coming back home. But then since it started since 1996, so mid 96, when the first time I actually joined the Australian Embassy team at the Department of Education. That's probably where I started my sort of close ties with the Australian education, especially education institutions as well as the universities. So the rest of the path, and also until we met, that was in 2019, 2022. Yes, when we both still at CDU team. So it's actually because of the what do you call it? Probably, to make it sort of short, it's because of the professional and friendship connections. That brought me move from one institutions to another. The majority of that professional path relates to Australian institutions.
Right. Very interesting.
That's probably it.
Yeah. So you have been in the industry for more than 2 decades for.
Well, I started working as an academic staff in 1991.
Wow. Right. That's very interesting. So, and in your point of view, what makes Australian universities so appealing, so interesting for Indonesian market? Like me, for instance, because most of my lecturers studied in Australia, and then I was more familiar with the history of Darwin when I was a kid, because I've got books on Darwin and Canberra. But and then Australia has started the internationalization of higher education probably long time ago, right, Mbak Citta? And you were part of that. Did you see any evolution in how they actually changed the perspective about international students, and then in the context of international relations in Asia, for instance?
As far as I know, based on my personal experience, probably in regards to the strategic kind of sort of, connections and development, basically the backbone of it is actually the interest, the commitment towards developing strong ties, strong bridge that actually attaching these two neighboring countries, because it's I believe it's God will, we are living together next to each other, so becoming the neighboring countries. So whether you like it or not, it's there. Similar probably to your experience, right, Pak Lala? So being Darwin is the one of the closest neighbor of Indonesia. So I think and also one of the most important thing is the commitment to actually continuously strengthening this relationship. So and then of course by times it's getting stronger and stronger, and people like yourself, Pak, as the Australian alumni, and plus many others of another alumni from different education sectors, education levels, education institutions, coming from different states and territories in Australia, becoming the ambassador in bringing the ties even closer together, developing the bridge even stronger by time. So that's I think what I believe.
So
what I saw actually.
I still remember my first day in Darwin. I landed, I think, at around 8 or 9 p.m. Darwin time
Yeah.
in late 2016. And the very first thing I felt back then was, hi, it looks very familiar. The trees look familiar, but the quality of the road is nicer there. And then also the people are very friendly. I feel that there is a coherent development of internationalization education, because uh, first impression for me is very powerful, because we have the prima facie principle. I think Australia has that kind of charisma in my point of view. But and since you've been in the business for such a long time, what kind of message do you think will you deliver to promote a stronger tie between PT KIN under Kementerian Agama, because now we are sending more and more people to learn in Australia in this very moment.
Yeah, and also probably relates to my own experience, either personally and also through previous experience in working closely together with also some government institutions, to include also
Right.
Kemenak in this regards, and also with university or higher education institutions in Indonesia, including PT KI under Kemenak.
Right.
So I think in brief, probably there are two sort of key points that can use to develop a strong relationship, and as well as mutual relationship. It's important to ensure that it's mutual, where both sides can get the advantage, while at the same time in parallel also working together to strengthening each respective partners. So I think first is, of course, something that always remains strong is actually people-to-people linkages.
Right.
Like yourself, with your home institutions.
Yes.
With your former peers there,
right.
with your former academics or non-academic staff whom you get to know, working together closely. And as far as I know, you actually, your academic team supports is not even only coming from one university. You've been lucky, I think, in your professional experience, time to get sort of supports from various angles, that way. So, and then secondly, of course, institution to institution linkages itself. So I always believe that, especially for the newcomers, or if you probably your institutions is in a way relatively new, or relatively would like to develop a bit more and strengthening the international partnership, various institutions, can be research in centers or universities or certain faculties. So the most easiest way from my experience is actually to start with a small kind of sort of activities, but one thing for sure, ensuring that it's happening.
Right.
Because sometimes there are also institutions who probably focusing on developing more kind of sort of agreements, let's say, letter of intent or MOUs, but then it doesn't necessarily reflect an active partnership. So some people said, oh, it might be end up as a slipping MOU, and of course we don't want that. So I think being optimistic, setting a strategic plan that relates to the big visions, the big dream of the institutions, the faculty, down to the schools and the research centers, and then from there developing something that's doable. That's probably the most important things. So as long as it's doable, and finding partners that also at the same boat, you know,
Right.
having similar visions, having close kind of sort of similarity of the research focus or strength in regards to a certain study programs. So focusing on that, what you call it, kind of sort of targeted areas, targeted institutions. So, and then start with a few as a starter, and then from there developing more by over time. I think it's more effective.
Right.
And it will be more manageable to sort of managing that partnership, while at the same time also ensuring that it's continuing, and then also remain active, and by over time is actually develop even wider, rather than start with lots of numbers in your dream list, or plan list. Then, you know, you find difficulties in either finding the right partners. Partners there are plenty of, you know, big institutions, either from world ranking universities or something. There are lots of them out there, but the one that actually also have the same sort of passions in regards to working together, develop a mutual partnerships. So it's not only from one end, but that willingness also need to come from both sides.
That's very interesting. So actually this year, Kementerian Agama is campaigning a new program called International Mobility Program for our students. For any students in PTKIN can join this. And then it's very interesting when I saw the list of universities, and the University of Canberra is the only Australian university who is listed by Kementerian Agama. But unfortunately, we couldn't send our students to go to Canberra this year because there was limited time from the opening to the deadline. I think there was only 1 week or so, and my students were not ready. But hopefully next week, next year, they are more prepared to join this one. So Pak Director Diktis has mentioned that we want to have an MOU and activities which are strategic with the best 100 universities. In the list, top 100. Do you think that is it possible for small universities in PTKIN to develop that kind of partnerships early this late this year or next month? Because when it comes to people-to-people relationship, sometimes it's a bit sporadic, and we have to make it more systematized in the mechanism of the campus. But do you think is it possible, like for IAIN Cirebon, to have early, let's say, activities? Because I personally still am running the podcast with my former supervisors, with Anya and Dulain, and but we haven't made the MOU with CDU. But I and Prof. Andrew Lyon already signed the MOU. So I'm the editor-in-chief for ELT Eco Journal, and then Professor Andrew Lyon is the president of Asia Call. And now we are running a local, let's say, workshop, fortnight local workshop. But anyone sharing their ideas in this event will have an international certificate as a speaker. So I think it's kind of innovation that we are trying to achieve. So for IAIN Cirebon, for instance, do you think is it possible to work with, let's say, bigger universities?
If that's the questions, the answers, there's always a possibility, isn't it? So optimism need to be there as well. But then, so it depends on what is actually the visions and the aims of the development plan that you are targeting and would like to achieve, you know. So for sure there is a possibility, but you are right. So people to people link need to also be strengthened.
Right.
The institutions to institutions, either at the faculty level or at the much wider levels, which is the institution to institution itself. So
right.
Uni. But I also believe that normally the seed started with not always, but often, often actually started with individual to individual linkage, either from, let's say, you or any other EIN Cirebon's family members, you know, with their own links, but also can be from referral connections that, you know, someone else's referring you to a certain potential partner. So there's a possibility in exploring cooperations, numbers of channels, but having the same kind of sort of, what do you call it? If there is a chemistry within the people-to-people linkages, especially the PIC of the development projects, that will help a lot, you know, rather than, let's say, we are contacting a certain institutions whom none of us, you know, have known each other or having previous connections or previous work or projects together. I think that's very, very natural, you know. So we will always feel easier to work with someone that we get used to, we know well, and also having a positive connections or partnership.
Right.
And then later, of course, this kind of sort of ties can be formalized. So MOU or letter of intent, whatever it is, it's actually a way to formalizing the positive connections or the partnership that actually already been developed. So it's already grown. As the seeds, it's already grown, but then to ensure that it's just like plants, you know. So when the seeds grow, it needs to grow even more, getting taller and taller. So with the partnership, quite similar, it getting wider and bigger and stronger, of course, than the institutions to institutions linkages will surely essentials and needed.
All right, very, very interesting. And actually, I and my team at the Faculty of Education and Teacher Training have addressed an idea. Maybe next year we could go to the University of Canberra and then probably go to ANU. So we're planning to make UC and ANU as the main destinations, because in the past we also had connections with ANU actually. Do you have any references, Mbak Citta, regarding I don't know, where's the best actually probably Islamic studies in Australia? Is it in Melbourne or at Telstra University or maybe somewhere else? We have actually wide research interest here. We have a focus on digital learning. I think UC has a strong background in digital. I think Australian universities have that strength. We are now transitioning into Cyber Islamic University, and then we are now searching for a partner actually who can actually can work with us in that kind of stuff. Is there any cyber university in Australia actually?
Well, there are quite numbers, I believe, university in Australia that's strong in that fields that you mentioned. You know, of course, with your experience at CDU, you also know that the university is also strong with that. But each, as far as I know, in each states and territory, there are also universities or higher education institutions that also focusing and have strength in that particular area. So it's a matter of finding the one that also have the same willingness to have this partnership develop and growing together. I think so. If the question is there any? So the answer is yes. Even in its states and territory there are, but just probably finding, you can explore through nowadays is very efficient, you know, through the website, especially the research focus. Probably you can look at research centers or research institutes and study programs. What are the specialized area of each university, and what sort of specific area of you know, the digitalization world that you would like to focus on. And from there you can start probably by contacting that respective university to explore whether they also have interest in developing partnership with Indonesia, especially with your home institutions.
All right. Since we only have 8 minutes left in our designated time of the podcast, Mbak Citta, what is the first thing that you will suggest to my undergrad students who are willing to continue their studies, probably in master's or PhD, to Australia?
Okay. So the message probably there are the opportunity is widely open there, you know. It's and the students nowadays in this era are very lucky, in my perspective, you know, let's say compared to my time, where once is actually there are more scholarship opportunities in addition to some probably has the capacity or the financial capacity, especially in financing themselves as a full paying students. But there are numbers of scholarships, and nowadays it's not only for full-time learning, but also for short-term type of programs. Yeah. So for let's say a semester-based kind of sort of studies while they are even still as an undergrad students here in Indonesia, right? And after the completions of their Sarjana 1, the options even more, and the destinations that they can think of is certainly much more as well. And Australia, of course, one of the possibility for them to undertake further studies, either as a full fee paying students or as the scholarship awardees. Probably what I would like to share is actually keep your spirit alive, and believe that if you try your best, and don't forget to also complete that with a continuous pray, because nothing is difficult if Allah give you so that's what always happen. So try to find informations from even now on. It can also motivate you that, you know, you are in a journey to reach your dreams, study dreams, even abroad. So wherever you think it will be a place, a destinations, university and study programs that you would like to actually experience, keep that spirit alive. But you need to also prepare yourself. Once, for an example, if let's say they're interested to study in Australia or any other English-speaking countries, improving the English language proficiency becoming mandatory. So you're not waiting to do that part until you completed your degree. Do it now. So that applies to any other things, including, you know, doing your studies now. Don't postpone things until the end. but do it as soon as it is possible, because it's for your own good, for a betterment of you, and also it's actually giving additional motivations that, oh, okay, I can do it. That if you see the progress, it actually helped you as an individuals to develop a positive insights, because you start believing in yourself even more, that I can do it, I can progressing, and see the positive sides on other people's what do you call it, successful journey, rather than getting jealous of other people's achievement. That, oh, okay, if they can do it, insya Allah I can also.
Yes, so that's growth mindset is everything, right?
So, how can they actually achieve that, and what are the journey that bring them to that level? So you can learn from other people's experience. So you don't have to create, you don't have to reinvent the wheel.
Right. That's true. That's true. No need to reinvent the wheel. Just learn the best story from
and then with the strong motivations, and of course keep on believe and asking for Allah bless. Inshallah.
All right, Mas Alwi, do you have any question, Mas Alwi? Silakan. Silakan, Mas Alwi.
Mangga.
Mas Alwi ini lagi ngeberesin disertasinya, Mbak, gitu. Jadi mungkin
insya,
saya dorong suatu saat, ayo dong ke Australia juga gitu.
Insya Allah, apa namanya, perjalanan disertasi lancar, berkah.
Amin.
Juga kan ilmunya berkah, itu yang paling penting juga.
Mangga Mas Alwi, barangkali ada yang ditanyaan. Thank you, Bu Citta.
Sudah.
Gimana?
Mohon doa saja semoga ini program-program dari International Office bisa terlaksana, dan mohon dukungan dan partisipasi. Amin. Dan suatu saat nanti apabila kami membutuhkan support dari belum diaktifkan, dan butuh support dari Bu Citta, ya nanti semoga dimudahkan dan dipertemukan, terus nyambung silaturahmi nanti.
Insya Allah harus nyambung terus, Mas. Kita harus banyak belajar memang sama beliau gitu.
Iya, saya senang sekali, dan memang itu ya, apa kendala kita di Indonesia itu masih begitu. Kemarin yang udah pernah kita diskusikan ya Pak Lala itu ya, jadi ada yang di Indonesia ini masih sangat administratif sekali, birokrasinya pasti banyak hanya butuhkan hitam di atas putih MOU-nya, tapi aktivitasnya nggak ada.
Nggak ada, betul. Dan dari beberapa pertemuan dengan banyak orang juga, kita mulai makin aware di Mbak Citta, bahwa kalau kita hanya punya MOU dan nggak dilaksanakan, itu kita bisa dituntut secara hukum. Nah, itu yang bikin kita takut gitu, karena European Universities yang high performing ones gitu, terus juga Amerika, mungkin Australia juga sama. Jadi memang saya dan tim ini hanya bertiga, Pak, jadi harus mengerti aspek hukumnya juga, mengerti aspek finance-nya juga. Jadi membuat kami ternyata aspek internasionalisasi ini, wah ternyata ininya gede banget gitu. Jadi ini tuh sebagai upaya kami, podcast ini sebagai upaya kami belajar lebih banyak dari para ahli gitu, Mbak, ceritanya gitulah.
Yang sudah punya banyak
sekali. Iya. Mudah-mudahan sih kita bisa ketemu offline nih kalau ada rencana ke Jakarta, Mas Alwi ya. Kita sedang merencanakan akan main ke Jakarta.
Kebetulan main ke Cirebon juga.
Monggo. Kontak saja Mbak Citta, insya Allah kami temui di Jakarta atau Cirebon. Mungkin 1 menit terakhir, Mbak Citta, ada yang disampaikan ke kami semua, yang para junior Mbak dan semuanya sebagai closing remark di acara podcast perdana ini, silakan Mbak.
Oke. Ya, saya yakin teman-teman semua di IAIN Cirebon, insya Allah memang bersemangat untuk maju bersama-sama, karena recover together, recover stronger kan?
Betul.
Nah, itu ternyata kan memang seperti itu, bahu-membahu itu akan jauh lebih mudah, dan mudah-mudahan dengan semangat kebersamaan ini dan komitmen, jadi semua itu selalu harus ada strong komitmen, strong will.
Betul.
Sehingga insya Allah apa-apa yang direncanakan memang disusun strategic plan-nya, tetapi juga implementasinya memang dengan full komitmen.
Iya, betul.
Dan memulailah dengan langkah yang kecil tetapi pasti, over time kemudian melebar, meluas, dan menjadi lebih kuat.
Ya, baik. Terima kasih kalau begitu. Penutupnya Mbak, kami haturkan sekali lagi terima kasih buat Mbak Citta dan keluarga. Mohon maaf ya,
Terima
lagi
kasih
sibuk-sibuknya
kembali.
gitu ya. Gitu, insya Allah nanti kita sambung lagi Mbak, offline atau online Mbak.
Amin, insya Allah.
Gitu. Baik kawan-kawan semua.
Sukses untuk
Terima kasih
Amin,
Global
amin.
Horizon Podcast perdana. Alhamdulillah bisa ringkas dalam 1 jam saja. Insya Allah insight ini menjadi keberkahan Mbak Citta dan Mas Aloy. Baik, kita ketemu lagi insya Allah di episode selanjutnya di Global Horizon Podcast. Insya Allah. Thank you Mbak Citta, Mas Aloy. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Sebelumnya nanti ini mohon izin Ibu Citta, nanti rekaman akan kami
Mangga.
upload di YouTube.
Mangga.
Channel kami ya. Terima kasih.
Terima kasih. Udah beres ya recordingnya.
Sudah.